Laura, great to have you. Very timely. Just in the last few hours, you put out a report on mounting pressure of U.S. state and local government budgets. To be honest, we hear about this a lot, but at the end of the day, states still manage to kind of get their budgets together. But what is it specifically about your report this year that makes you a little bit more nervous?
Right. Well, our report is focused on longer term trends. When you think of how states spend their money, it's primarily education and healthcare. And the percentage of the budget that's spent on healthcare has really grown, and we expect that trend to continue. The report we put out today has a scenario where about half of the state budgets could be spent on less flexible items in a 10-year period. And that leaves you with more mandated spending and an ever smaller amount of more discretionary spending that has to be managed to make room.
Well, and sometimes that less of that flexibility might translate into downgrades. Are you guys looking at any downgrades because of this increased budgetary pressure?
Right. We see the U.S. state credit as amongst the strongest credits we rate. The ratings are very high in that sector, and that's primarily because of the extraordinary independent power that the states have over their budgets. As long as they continue to use that power to preserve credit quality, we wouldn't expect downgrades, but we absolutely think Medicaid will continue to be a key budget challenge that anyone interested in state credit should keep their eye on.
We also talk a lot about local governments because we know the federal government can push their problems down to the state level. The state can push it down to the local level. How much more pressure is this putting on the local sector?
Right, and I think that dynamic is exactly right. States fund services rather than provide services, and that makes it pretty easy for them to make their problem someone else's problem. And in terms of local governments, it really depends a lot on how much money they receive from the states. So school districts, their funding framework is really set by the states. School districts are particularly vulnerable to stress on the state side. You have cities, there's not much funding flow from states to cities, so cities are more protected in that way.
I know finally you run the state and local government ratings team here, so you have a very good idea of the pipeline of issuers that are coming to you to get ratings. Any idea what the supply outlook is going to be this summer?
Right, we've seen a reduction in issuance. We're not in a great place to predict that, but have definitely seen reduced issuance over time.
You know, and just going back to your report, I wonder specifically, are there any regions or areas or sectors that are feeling the pressure the most? Would it be like the Northeast, for example, because they're feeling the pressure from the SALT deduction cap at all?
Right. I think that goes into the mix. Medicaid, which is the key pressure, is really an issue for everyone. In terms of the states that are most vulnerable to a downturn, it really reflects how the budgets and liabilities have been managed over time. So if you think of Illinois, Connecticut, New Jersey, those are places where pensions have been a real pressure based on a history of underfunding.